Hello and welcome to Olympics Unleashed TV. I'm Sam Fricker, Tokyo 2020 Olympic diver, and I'm here to host the first episode in 2023 of the Olympics Unleashed TV. Today we're coming to you from the Sydney Olympic Park Aquatics Centre. Now this centre was built for the Sydney 2000 Olympic Games to host the swimming, diving, artistic swimming and water polo events. Now it is home to some of Australia's best aquatic athletes. I would like to acknowledge the Wongal people as the first custodians of the land, air and water that we now call Sydney Olympic Park, and pay my respects to their elders, past and present. I extend my respects to the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people watching today. We have an action-packed episode to kick off the year. We're going to hear from some inspiring Olympians and learn about some of the Olympic sports that take place here at SOPAC. All right, BK, we have such an exciting episode ahead of us. Let's head inside and dive straight into it. Alright guys, so to start today's episode, we're going to take you through a little bit of what goes through my head when I'm sending a dive up here on 10 meters. So, let's get into it. So heading up to do a front 1.5. Now when I'm right down here on pool deck, I'm normally just grabbing my chamois, just keeping it nice and easy, about to go up the stairs. And once I get out there, I'll get into the right mental space. But for now, we're just taking it easy. Now, I have my chamois with me because when we're getting out of the pool constantly, I've got to dry off so we can get into those tight positions. I can grab my hands and do everything I need to do without slipping out. Because when you're wet, you can tend to be a little bit slippery. So by removing the water, it allows me to get in tighter positions and just dive a little more consistently. So once I get up here on the platform, I'm going to make sure I'm nice and dry by using my chamois. And then I'll throw down my chamois, and that's going to signalize I'm in the zone, I'm about to do my dive. I then walk to the end, keeping it really focused. I'm focusing on two key words that I'm going to be saying in my head, keeping it nice and simple. So a question we get asked is, do you have time to think in the air, or is it just instinct? Now, it's a combination. If you make a big mistake, you're thinking, oh no, I've made a mistake. But typically, you're in the zone and you're hyper-focused on what you need to do to execute that dive. So for me, just focusing on those keywords, and that's all I'm thinking about. And just by focusing on that, instinct will kick in, training will kick in, and as you focus on those two keywords, the whole dive should come together. So as we come out of the pool after a dive and we're waiting for the judges' scores, after a good dive, you're coming out, and sometimes a small degree of angle can make the difference between a little bit of splash or complete entry. So you're just waiting for those scores to come up. If it was good, or if it was great, or if it was bad, you're just hoping the judges are going to go with you. I hope you enjoyed learning about what goes through my head for each dive. Now it does vary per dive, but as a whole, you try and keep things super simple and rely on your training. But this is what I love to do every day. Next up, Olympians Blake Edwards and Holly Young sit down with the students from Jasper Road Public School to share their inspiring stories and answer some questions. So today we're here with two incredible water polo athletes. We have Holly Young, dual Olympian and Olympic bronze medalist, and Blake Edwards, Tokyo 2020 Olympian. Guys, thanks for coming out. And we have the Year 6 students from Jasper Road Public School ready to ask some questions. Guys, welcome. So for those people that don't know what water polo is, could you please explain the sport to the students?
All right, so does everyone know what football is? And does everyone know what swimming is? I like to think water polo is a mix between swimming and football. So lots of swimming, but then lots of wrestling. So everyone thinks when you play water polo, you stand on the bottom, but you're not allowed to actually stand. So you're having to hold yourself up the whole time using your strong legs. And then you're having to swim to the end, grab a ball, pass it, block balls, lots of wrestling, lots of fun.
Blake, what did you feel at your first Olympics?
It's an excellent question. I felt very proud. I felt extremely humble to be there. I remember you stand up in a lineup before a game for water polo and you get to listen to the national anthem, and I just had goosebumps running through my whole body, and all the hard work and sacrifices, that I had to make along the journey to get there. It was like a dream that had just come true, and there wasn't a moment that I wasn't kicking myself the entire Olympic game experience. It was just amazing.
Holly, why did you pick water polo?
So I tell this story of the very first game I played. I watched my sisters playing water polo and my parents met playing water polo. But the very first game I played up at Ringa Aquatics Centre, which is a pool near me, I fell in love and I wrote myself a diary. And in that diary, on the very first page was a contract to myself saying that I was going to get to the Olympics for water polo, and I signed it, and I was 13 at the time. So I just fell in love with it, and I still love the sport just as much now as I did when I was that 13-year-old girl.
Blake, what inspired you to start water polo?
My father actually played water polo for Australia at the World Championships in Berlin, and my mother was quite a good swimmer, and she swam at an Australian level for swim-in. So probably both of my parents inspired me to represent Australia. I think similar to Holly, I watched my first Olympic Games in water polo at Athens 2004, and watching them compete, I knew that one day I wanted to wear the Aussie cap at Olympic Games. So, but yeah, to answer your question, probably my parents were the biggest drivers.
So your team got up on the podium in the London Olympics. What was it like standing there after all the hard work that you've put in over the years?
Relief, because at the Olympics you play 6 games, 3 round games, a quarterfinal, semi-final, and then you get to play for a medal if you win those games. So our quarterfinal, we went into a penalty shootout. Our semi-final, we went into a penalty shootout. And our bronze medal game, we went into extra time. So with 5 seconds left, we were up by 1 goal. We were playing Hungary. And our goalkeeper had the ball. 2 of the Hungarian players went underwater. The whole bench was cheering. And all of a sudden, you just hear our coach screaming, "No, no, no!" And you turn around and the ball is dribbling into the back of the net. So we then had to go into extra time in our 3rd game. And when the whistle blew and the buzzer went and we knew that we'd won that bronze medal, everyone just lay back in the water, and it was just probably 10 seconds of pure relief. And then once we kind of thought, firstly, we're exhausted. Secondly, we didn't lose. Even though that was a bad moment, we still won. And then standing up on the podium, us girls worked so hard together. We ended up being together for 9 out of the 12 months leading up to the Olympics. So we were like family, and there was so much respect, so much love. We had our families, like my parents in the crowd, my sister, my husband was in the crowd. And it was just a real moment of pride, being able to wear my robe, my Australian Olympic robe, and get the medal put around my neck was one of the most special moments of my life.
Blake, what is your weekly schedule for training for water polo?
It's a great question. So for water polo, typically we'll go morning and night in the pool, and we'll chuck probably about 3 gym sessions a week in. So we'll usually work on a basis of 5 sessions on, and then an afternoon or morning off. And then usually on a Sunday, we'll have a complete day off unless we've got games. When we're in competition, we're in a tournament, we can usually play up to 6 games in 1 week.
And I think you guys have brought some stuff along today. Let's check it out.
So I've got 2 very special things. So this was from London 2012, and this is one of the robes we get. So this is what we get to line up in. And then my pride and joy is my Olympic medal.
Yeah, I brought our water polo caps that you see us wear, the little ear protection. So I
Put it on.
Here we go. So this is how we know who our teammate is and who we're passing the ball to, but also it protects our ears.
So that's a wrap of our Q&A. Thank you all so much for your questions. I learnt a little bit more about water polo, and I find it very interesting, even as an Olympian, hearing the stories from other Olympians and the stories about how you got there, and of course, winning a medal. Let's give them a round of applause. I found it so interesting learning about water polo, and I hope you guys enjoyed it as well. Next, we have the student takeover. 2 students are going to take control as hosts and start asking me the questions. Now, I'm going to be honest, I'm a little bit nervous. I hope they go easy on me. So we're here with Fissel and Lazine. I'll hand it over to you guys.
How much time do you spend doing your hair?
Normally 0. I think I walked in here this morning without doing my hair. Even if I'm going to be on TV, they'll put stuff in it and then I'll just do this. It takes me like 1 second. Just do that one. And it's good to go. Just send it.
Sam, why did you start diving?
So I started diving because I was doing gymnastics and trampoline at the time, and there was actually a girl I liked that was doing diving, and that's what got me into the sport. And I didn't particularly enjoy it, but she was there, so I'd go. And eventually I got better at it, and I fell in love with the sport, and I made a school nationals event, and from then I was hooked. I really enjoyed it.
What dive is currently your favorite?
Ooh, I learnt a brand new dive 2 weeks ago, and coming up to the Olympics, I'm trying to push to get bigger, harder dives. And this dive was my dream dive ever since I was very little, and it's a triple twisting 2.5. So you send it forward off the board, you do one flip, you come out, you do 3 twists, and then you do another flip to your head. So it's 2.5 flips forward with 3.5 turns. It's good fun.
What is the best part about going to the Olympics?
I think the whole experience, everything from like when the gear turns up at your door and you get to unpack it and the whole family gets to see it, to when you jump on a flight with the Australian team, to when you get to the Australian building and everyone's wearing the uniform, and just being in the atmosphere of the Olympics is probably the most enjoyable part.
What is your main goal right now?
So for me, my next major goal is to try and make the next Olympic Games, which is Paris. And once you've made the team, you've got to strive for a medal. So I'll try and get a medal at the Paris Olympics.
What is the worst injury that you have had?
Oh, in terms of injuries, I've had a fair few, whether it's broken wrists or like lower discs in your back that you've done. I've broken my ankle twice as well. But it actually kind of helped me win a medal at the Commonwealth because I couldn't do platform for ages because the platform's concrete. So I was doing a lot more springboard for a few months, and I really, really enjoyed it. And that got me back doing a lot more springboard. And I ended up winning a medal in synchro for springboard. And that may have not have happened if I hadn't broken my ankle.
Do you have any pets?
I have a dog. I was always like obsessed with dogs when I was a kid. I love them so much, and I have a Labradoodle. His name's Coco.
What made you start your TikTok account?
It was my sister that got me onto TikTok, because I've been making like YouTube videos for nearly a decade. Like, I've always been into making videos. She ended up getting me on there, and I fell in love with it. I really enjoyed it, and I had a video get like 100,000 views, and it was more views than I'd ever gotten on anything. It just kind of took off, and then from there I just like doubled down on it. And then coming around to the Olympics, everything just blew up. I think we're doing over 100 mil a week.
What's it like to compete in a sport where results are based on judges' scores?
It's a great question, and when it comes to the diving, a lot of it is subjective. A judge is sitting there and they'll put in a score that they think it's worth, and we have sometimes 8 judges, so hopefully you've got a wide variety of what everyone thinks of the dive. But the way they do it, they take off the highest 2 scores and the lowest 2 scores and take the average 3. So no matter what everyone thinks, you'll typically get a fairly even score, but as a whole you just want it to be neat, tidy, and executed with low splash, and typically that will give you a good score no matter what.
How do you deal with disappointment and setbacks?
It's a pretty big thing, especially in sport, and especially when you care so much. Like when you're putting so many hours in and sometimes it doesn't work, it can be really disappointing, and that can hit pretty hard. And over the years, you can't find ways of dealing with it. Like for me, I found writing out like how I felt, then setting new goals moving forward was my way of getting through it. And then you just work towards those new goals. And sometimes the setbacks are crucially important for you to understand that if you work harder, you can do better. And when you do win and you come back, like it feels better than ever. But it's so important, I think, to have those setbacks because that builds character, and that there's going to be setbacks no matter what you do in life. So I think it's crucially important to be able to deal with that and then keep moving forward. And then, as I said, when you do come out on top again, like there's no feeling that beats it. Thanks for the question, guys. They were incredible. Some really good insight.
Thanks for taking us over
Yes,
here. We loved
thank
it.
you.
We love talking to you.
Phew, I survived that one, but they both threw some tricky questions at me. Love your work, Physio and Lazine. Now we've just jumped across the road to the New South Wales Institute of Sport. We're here in the gym with 4-time Olympian Melissa Wu. Mel, thanks for coming down.
Thanks for having me.
Now Mel, being a 4-time Olympian is an incredible achievement. What are some of your highlights from over the years?
I've had quite a few highlights. I think definitely because Olympics is the peak of sport and what you always dream of when you're younger. I think definitely my 2 Olympic medals would have to be highlights. So my first Olympics when I was 16, I won a silver medal, and then in Tokyo 2020, I won a bronze. So pretty awesome achievements. I'm pretty proud of those.
16 winning Olympic medal, that is incredible. And in Tokyo, I was there and got to see you win your medal as well, which just watching and having trained with you, I found that like a really special moment, just being a part of that in the audience. So that was incredible.
Thank you.
So you've been representing Australia since a very young age at 13. How did you find dealing with that?
I definitely found it really challenging to balance like school and diving at the same time. Diving was a really big commitment and it required a lot of training. So pretty much from the age of 11 or 12, I was doing 10 sessions of training a week, which is full-time load, which is what we do now at this level. So for me, it was okay when I was just training. Balancing school, I had to be quite organised, but when I started travelling overseas for international competitions, especially we would have to go from one to the other, that's when I struggled a little bit more. So I just had to basically have a really good support team around me and really rely on my family and my friends to help me through. But I think that because I did have so much support around me, that's why I was able to still do both and yeah, to be able to manage everything and achieve my dreams in diving.
How did you find like pressure when you were younger versus as you got older? Was it different pressure, same, or have you dealt with it in different ways?
I think that the pressure is definitely different when you're younger and when you're older. I think that when you're younger and you're chasing somebody, even though there's still pressure to perform, I think it's definitely easier being the person that's chasing somebody else and you kind of have that person that you look up to and you do everything you can. And then once you do make it, being able to maintain your spot at the top, and especially over a long period of time, that's a different type of pressure because you're not as naive anymore and you can see everybody getting close to you and really pushing you. So I think it took me a while actually to learn to cope with that pressure of being at the top and maintaining my place and then still being able to get results. But I had to work really hard on my mindset to be able to do that, and it's something that I've continued to do for a long period of time, is work on my mindset.
With the mindset skills that you had to learn to deal with that pressure, where'd you go for that kind of thing and how did that progress over time?
So it was something that I really struggled with for a long period of time, that when I would compete, I'd basically just choke under pressure all the time. Especially when I was younger, I had a lot of synchro success because I had somebody standing there next to me, but every time I would compete by myself individually, that's when I would really choke and it would really get to me. So I was sort of tired of doing the same thing over and over, choking in competition. So basically I asked another athlete who they see for their mindset, and then he referred me to the psychologist that I've been seeing pretty much for a good part of nearly 10 years now, and that was a really big help for me, and it was something that still took me a long time to work with him and improve. It didn't just happen overnight, and I think that was the thing. I knew I had to be patient with it, but just keep persisting with it. And I guess it's like physical training. You can't just come in and things will just be perfect automatically. You've got to keep working at it. You've got to come in every day, and I think I just viewed my mindset the same way. And then I would practice things and try it in competition, and didn't mean that everything would always go to plan, but I tried to make sure that I always learnt from the competition and not just see it as something that was bad that happened, but I viewed the things that didn't go right as an opportunity to do better the next time.
I find that it's so interesting because as an athlete we do nearly 100% of the physical training, but in competition most of it comes down to mindset and who can do it when they need to. So I think that mindset has clearly made such a huge difference, and the medals that you've won over your time, it must be working. But it's a good point that it wasn't just like an instant fix. It was something that took time.
Exactly, yeah.
It's something I think I could probably get better at. So the next 12 to 18 months leading into Paris, what's that kind of look like for you?
It's definitely a busy time and a big time. It starts getting, the pressure starts ramping up leading into an Olympic Games, especially because at the Olympics, countries don't just get to put people in, you've got to actually qualify the spot for your country to be able to put someone in. So we have to start doing that this year actually. It's the first opportunity for countries to start qualifying those spots. So for us in Australia, that will be no different. We'll be working hard towards that, same as you.
Yeah,
and
World Champs.
Yes, exactly. World Championships this
spots.
year for sure, yeah. And then that will lead into next year where there'll be a big comp calendar, there'll be a lot more events. We usually have a test event in the pool, the Olympic pool, beforehand in February. This will be the first year we don't actually do that. So we'll still have a World Champs next year, but basically the qualification process is the same, and next year in February will be our last chance to get the spots for Australia, and then we'll have an Olympic trials probably around May next year, and that will determine who gets the spots.
It's always a stressful day.
Yes,
it's tricky too, because even
definitely.
if you go out and get a position for the country,
exactly,
it's not yours.
You're not guaranteed the
It's
spot.
the country's.
Exactly.
And then we have that national event to see who gets to go.
Yeah, a lot of pressure, as you would know.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll be right. I think I've got a good feeling of it.
Yeah. It should be good. I'm excited. Just keep chipping away.
Yes, definitely.
Day in, day out. Well, that's all the questions we have time for today. But Mel, I can ask you questions all day. I find it so interesting. But I heard you have a challenge with BK, so good luck with that.
Thank you. Let's do it. Today we're here with Dominic from Jasper Road Public School and everybody's favourite kangaroo, BK. Today's physical challenge is a single leg squat, which will test not only your strength, but also your flexibility and your balance. For those who can, we're going to be doing as many single leg squats as we can in 20 seconds. If you need a bit of an easier option, you can keep 2 feet on the ground and do a normal squat. Ready to go, Dominic?
Yes.
All right, let's do this. Ready, set, go. Good job, guys, that's it, well done. Nice work, good job, Dominic. If you found that easy, here's more of a challenge. You can try a dragon squat, where you're gonna squat with one leg out to the side, bring it around like this, and come back up. That's a tough one. Thanks everybody, that was so much fun. A huge thanks to Dominic and also to BK.
That's all we have for you today on Olympics Unleashed TV, but make sure you tune in every term for a fresh new episode of Olympics Unleashed. Until next time, stay safe, stay active, and we look forward to you joining us in the next term's episode.